Turn off all cell phones during the meeting, and we are being televised live, and then meetings will be broadcast after that. We will begin the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a silent meditation. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will begin with old business. Consideration of the previous meeting minutes. We have any corrections or comments on the previous minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd move that we adopt the minutes from December 12th, 2017 regular meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. Next item on the agenda, new business. We have nominations for the governing body. The first item is the mayor, and I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd move to nominate our Mayor Pro Tem, Mark Preisinger, for the position of mayor.
Second that. It's been moved and seconded. Please begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Congratulations, Mayor.
Thank you. Are you situated here?
Yeah, I'll move right over here.
Let's see, let me stretch. Oops. Yeah, I got it. Oh, yeah, I just do that. Hello, Nancy.
So you don't trip over it. Thank you. All right.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the commission and the citizens for allowing me to be the mayor again, representing. It's my pleasure and my honor to represent the city of Leavenworth. I look forward to working with the rest of the commission, five-time mayor, Mayor Dedeke, former mayor, Mayor Bowder, and I thank her for her service for the last year. I look forward to working with future mayors, Wilson and Griswold. And I also look forward to working with our partners, whether it be Fort Leavenworth, Lansing, Basser, Tonganoxie, the Board of County Commissioners. We're all in this together, and I hope that it becomes productive for all of us, because when one of us wins, we all win. So thank you very much. Next item is nominations for Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to nominate Commissioner Jermaine Wilson to be Mayor Pro Tem.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second for Commissioner Jermaine Wilson to become Mayor Pro Tem with a term from January 9th, 2018 to January 8th, 2019. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
You get to say where you are.
Okay. The next item is Financial Claims Reviewer for a term from January 9th, 2018 through January 8th, 2019. Do we have a motion for someone to become the Financial Claims? If not, I will make the motion. I move that Commissioner Mike Griswold become the Financial Claims Reviewer for the term from this January through next January.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Commissioner Griswold be the Financial Claims Reviewer. Begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 Good job. Thank you. Citizens participation. Next part of the meeting is for any citizens that would like to speak to the commission, present any petitions to the clerk, or and we ask that you only speak on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Does anyone care to speak?
Me.
Yes, sir. Please go up there and to the podium and identify yourself and give us your address.
Sorry.
Okay, my name's Howard Keatsman. I live at 2013 High Street. I'm a retired colonel and a Vietnam vet. And the reason I'm here to speak is I got a problem with my vote. Or actually, the city has a problem with my boat. It's been parked in my side yard for 15 years. In '96, when I got the boat, after my wife passed, because she wouldn't really have a boat till that happened, I had it parked out front for 4 years. No problem. And somebody came by and wrote me a letter from the city. Your inspector, I came down to see him, and he said, you guys controlled where I parked my boat. I didn't believe that, but that's the way it worked out. And I told him I didn't want to make trouble. Could he come out to the house and show me where I could put it in the side yard? He did. We measured to make sure we were 2 feet away, we were back behind the front of the house, and we staked it out, the 4 corners. Then I had Kirsten Concrete, I think, come out and pour the pad. It's been there for 15 years, that's where my boat's been parked. And then this December, I got another letter. I'm illegal again. And I came down to see your guy in codes, and I said, what the heck happened, you know? I put it where you wanted me to, everything's straight. Your inspector helped me, and he said, well, we revised the regulation on the 2015. I said, oh, okay. And I looked at the letter, I said, well, look, why don't you just give me a variance to it? I've only been here 2 months, I can't do stuff like that. The council wrote the reg, the council would have to give you a variance. I said, okay. Or maybe the city manager. So I went and saw the city manager. He couldn't help me. He tried. And they said I needed to come here. So what I'm doing here is I'm asking for a variance, I guess a letter that you could stick in the code books up there or send me so I could show it to somebody when it comes. It just says that Howard Keatsman, 2013 High Street, is authorized to park his boat in the side yard until he dies. But the thing is, I read the reg, and you know, you could just change end rear from one sentence and add it to another sentence, and it would solve my problem. If you didn't want to grant me a variance, it would probably solve some other people's problems too. But you know, it's crazy to think that I'm going to pay $1,000 to get a pad. Then later, when my driveway went to hell, when I repaved my driveway, I had them run a little piece over to my ramp or my pad, so now I can pull my boat out, go through the driveway. I was worried about killing my grass and maybe breaking a sidewalk or a curb when I pulled it out. Mm-hmm. It's only a light bass boat anyway, 17-foot bass boat. So anyway, it just seems it's ridiculous to think that somebody would pour pad in their side yard to park their boat there, which it says you can for 7 months or in front. And then I'd have to tear my fence down, put a gate in my fence that would let me back my boat through, pour another pad in the backyard where I would go put my boat for 5 months out of the year to comply with this thing as written. I don't think that's what anybody meant to happen, was the homeowners have to have multiple pads so they can keep their boat at the house. So I honestly think that the reg could be fine-tuned just a little bit, as well as give me a variance so I can keep my boat where it's been for 15 years. Basically, that's why I'm here. and I don't guess you guys, I thought you guys could just approve it. Say approved, get it done. Have somebody write the letter. And I also think that maybe you ought to give your inspectors a little more flexibility. Now, he's a new guy, so he was afraid to do anything. But, you know, what was your goal? Was it get the junk out of the yards, the refrigerators and the packing cases and the recreational vehicles and stuff sitting in front of the houses? If that was it, then being in the side yard or in the back, either one, seems to me meets the requirement, and ought to be able to do that. And your inspector ought to have the flexibility that when he goes by and he sees a well-maintained, tarped, parked boat on the side yard, on a concrete pad, that he just wouldn't send me a letter. You know, he used his own discretion.
The thing about your boat is that there is a big tree right in front of it next to the house, and when I sent pictures
Right.
in about it, you can't even see it. You can't even see the boat because the tree is right there on the corner of the house. The boat is behind the tree. The only way you can see the boat is to go over toward the dead end and take a picture back the other way
Right.
for the side of the house. But from the front of the house, you got your house, your garage, and that tree there, and you don't even know there's a boat back there.
The mayor was kind enough to come down and look at it. I called her home. She was making Christmas candy, and she did come down and look.
Should you give you any?
And she drives down my road. She lives on High Street. I didn't know that. She drives by twice a day, I guess, going to work, and coming back.
I didn't even know.
She didn't even know I had a boat.
But it seems like
So,
since he put it in so long ago, there ought to be some sort of variance we could give.
So I'm here to get relief from having to
I understand, Mr.
move
Keesman.
my boat.
What if, Mr. Kramer, what if we ask you and staff to staff this up for us, bring us information that we can take this up at the next meeting possibly? Or is there any information here that you want to present now?
Would you like to talk about the policy at a study session? Would you like to entertain Mr. Keatsman's variance separately? I would recommend looking at the policy.
Okay, yeah.
And not exploring any individual variances at this point. I believe that there are dozens of similar cases, and setting up individual variances is probably problematic.
Okay.
So looking at the policy in general is probably the better way to go.
And can we assure Mr. Keatsman that we won't
Here's
say
a copy of the policy with the two words that could be moved from one sentence to the next,
Thank you.
and it would solve the problem.
Can we assure Mr. Keatsman while we're studying this that he will not be
Or I can
sent
help
to
you by
jail for
drafting
this?
that letter.
No more letters.
very-
That he,
We'll hold on to the case until.
Okay.
okay, yeah.
It seems to me like, when you follow the rules and do everything you're supposed to do, and you put your money into your property, and you make it according to what the city rules are, and then the city changes the rules.
Did those
Then you're
rules
stuck with
actually
them.
change?
Well, that's a discussion point we can get into, about whether it's a violation or not, or if it's always been a violation.
Okay. So let's, do we have a consensus? Move this to a study session? Mr. Keatsman, we will look at it. Don't worry, you won't be going to jail between now and then for this offense only.
I know there's other people who got business here.
Okay, thank you very
sir.
much for coming.
It took longer than I needed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other citizens care to speak?
Yes, please.
Come on up.
Hi, Amanda Reed. I was here.
I'm sorry, your name?
Amanda Reed. I was here November 14th to talk to you guys about getting my mother-in-law's house removed from the demo list. On that day, I was granted an extension an extension to get the house sold and a remediation plan set in motion prior to the 23rd of January. The deed was transferred to her today. She has a remediation plan. They are ready to start tomorrow. We just wanted to bring that to you and see if we could get the ball rolling.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Kramer, do you have any information?
Yeah, this item is scheduled for the January 23rd agenda. We have been in contact with Mrs. Reed. We would ask that we continue this on the 23rd and allow staff to present the commission with a full report of what we've done, summarize the meeting, summarize the remediation agreement, and go forward at that point as it's scheduled.
If you complied, if you do have a buyer, and obviously, and they have purchased it, it's scheduled for 2 weeks from tonight. I don't think you have anything to worry about, but we have it as an agenda item for January 23rd, and there'll be all the background on it. And I don't know how the commission will vote, but I don't think there'll be an issue.
Can she start, going in, cleaning out? Can she start doing those things now?
Sure.
Putting work into
It'd be
it?
potentially at her own risk if in fact this, property did not sell or
stuff
meet the
that's not-
mediation agreement, but I think if you talk with Ms. Hurley in planning, I think you'd be safe in doing that if in fact the property has sold.
The demolition designation does not prevent any work from going
Yeah,
on.
we-
And in
we-
fact, most of the work on rehabs is done while it's still on the
Right,
demolition.
yeah,
So, you know,
yeah.
My biggest thing is actually starting the work and then you guys, me coming over one day and the house is
What?
gone.
No,
No,
that won't happen. What is,
Won't
what
happen.
is, we have never, people that are working on houses and things, we've never bulldozed those. We've had people that sign mediation, remediation
And then don't
agreements,
do
and they haven't
anything.
done anything.
Yeah.
Then we've done it, but no, you are free to do whatever you care to do, you know, especially if it's your property. But come on back on
Yes,
January
ma'am.
23rd and we'll take official action on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other citizens care to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is John Hall. I'm 3014 Shrine Park Road. I had already spoken to Mr. Kramer, and I didn't plan on asking you guys this, but because in California, where I'm from, you're not allowed to talk. And so I notice you're much more lax back here, which is thankful. I would like to know if any of you have an opinion about what the county's doing with this, putting a meeting at the same time. They're, 5 blocks away deciding they're gonna have their own little meetings, doing what they, and, and they seem to think it's no problem. You, Mr. Mayor, you were just there, a week and a half ago with a problem. Well, now you can't go, so they can do whatever they please, and they can come down with this, gee, nobody cares. And I was curious if the city had a position. I was gonna come back and talk to Mr. Kramer to see if there's something I can do, because to me, I should not have to make a choice as to which meeting I go to. I choose to go to neither one, but, if something comes up, now I have to make a choice.
I agree with you.
And I was just curious if the city has given this any thought at all. Now, I was listening over there, and I guess they already changed now to they're only gonna go to the 4th Tuesday of the month at night, so this is the ball's rolling all over the road, so.
This just, as you know, this, I think, occurred last week for the first time, and it was going this week. I think the original agenda that we received showed a Thursday morning meeting, but I think that was changed unless I read it incorrectly. This thing is probably evolving, and let's see where it goes.
Well, one of the things is when you go online and look at their agenda, there's a little disclaimer at the bottom that basically says, or whatever comes up. It's worded a little bit different, and that's the scary part.
Yeah.
If it's, the agenda's fine, but it's just kind of like, and, I haven't been back here too long, but I've noticed that those three don't particularly like each other. And-
I think you should make a run over there. You can probably make it there in 7 minutes. Express your concern right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, no,
they're the ones that set the meeting, not
I'm
us.
gonna be hitting them on Tuesday morning.
Okay.
Like I said, I will be going over, because again, it just started.
Yeah.
But my thing here is, I guess my question is the city going to send a letter? Is there something going? I mean, this is ridiculous that, that you've got, again, the comment was made earlier. You all rise together, you all fall together. And that's not what's going on here.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure this commission will be discussing at some point. Right now, I don't think there's anything going on right now, but let's see how this thing rolls out.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Hall. Anyone else care to speak? If not, I'll close that portion of the meeting. One thing I'll do in interest of time, I notice a lot of people are here, and I'm sure they're not here just to welcome me as mayor and the new commissioners. I suspect they're here for item number 6. So let's move up number 6 to the next item under general items. Unless someone has a major objection to that. Mr. Kramer, are we okay doing that? Mr. Dawson? Okay, so item number 6 is first consideration ordinance for a special use permit at 2115 Ridgeview Drive.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, I'm going to let our city planner handle this in a second. I just want to make it clear that tonight this is a first consideration ordinance, so we're not voting on this tonight. We're either giving consensus to move forward to a second reading, or if there is no consensus, the matter will simply die on the vine. So Julie will handle our staff report on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. This is a request for a special use permit to allow a residential homestay at 2115 Ridgeview Drive. The applicant is requesting the special use permit to allow the property to be used again as a residential homestay in the Oakwood Estates subdivision. The property is surrounded by other similar single-family homes. The owner also does reside in this same subdivision. The owner is currently utilizing the property as a short-term rental to cover the cost of maintaining the home while she has it listed for sale. The property is listed for rent on the short-term rental website Airbnb. With the rise of short-term rental properties such as this, which I'm sure you've heard about, the city has determined that properties meeting this definition be classified as a residential homestay, which is currently defined in our development regulations. And that use is allowed with a special use permit in the R19 zoning district, so that's why this request has come forward. Currently, the city has no other special use permits for a residential homestay within the city. We're currently aware of one other specific property being utilized as a short-term rental. That property is located downtown, though, in the central business zoning district, and a residential homestay is allowed by right in that zoning district, so no special use permit would be required for that specific one. Since staff sent notification to the property owners within 200 feet of this property as required by statute, we've received contact from multiple neighbors indicating concern with this special use permit request. Most of that concern revolves around there being parties held at the property by renters, and police has confirmed that they've had one instance when they had to respond to a party being held at this property by renters.
One incident or two, did you say?
There were two incidences that we heard of from the neighbors, only one that the police were called out to respond to, though.
Okay.
So with that, there are 4 findings that the commission must consider in reviewing this request. I'll go through those. The first is that the proposed special use complies with all applicable provisions of the ordinance. Staff does believe that the request complies with provisions of the ordinance. The second is that the proposed special use at the specified location will continue to contribute to and promote the economic development, welfare, or convenience of the public. Staff does recognize that a residential homestay at this location contributes to the economic development and convenience of the public by providing an alternative rental solution for persons visiting the community. However, past incidences at the property have indicated a potential negative impact on existing neighbors. Number 3 is that the special use will not cause substantial injury to the value of other property in the neighborhood in which it is located. Staff does not believe that the use as proposed would cause injury to the value of other properties in the neighborhood. Residential homestay as defined is compatible with the R19 zoning district and existing land use within the neighborhood. However, again, based on past incidences at the specific property, there would be potential injury to the value of other properties in the neighborhood. The fourth is that the location and size of the special use, the nature and intensity of the operation involved in or conducted in connection with it, and the location of the site with respect to streets giving access to it are such that the special use will not dominate the immediate neighborhood so as to prevent development and use of neighboring property in accordance with the applicable zoning district regulations. The proposed residential homestay as proposed is compatible with the existing residential uses within the neighborhood. Any approval of a special use permit for a residential homestay would require that the owner of the property ensure that all activities taking place at the property comply with the regulations and the definition of that residential homestay. Since the property is situated on a cul-de-sac in a residential neighborhood, any parking on the street by tenants or renters of this property could pose a problem for existing neighbors. With the size of the driveway, there's reasonable accommodation for 4 vehicles in that driveway, so there should be no reason that any renters would be parking on the street here. So as defined and as presented, there would theoretically should be no problem with the proposed use. The Planning Commission did consider this item at their December 4th, 2017 meeting and voted 5-0 to recommend denial of the request. During the Planning Commission meeting, 4 people spoke in opposition to the proposed special use permit, and there were a total of 21 people in the audience indicating their opposition to the proposal. Mr. Doug Waters, who represents the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association, indicated during that meeting that the proposed use also conflicts with their HOA covenants, and provided a copy of the relevant section of that covenant, which is in your packet. The city cannot really take HOA covenants into consideration when reviewing, but we did provide that for you since it was part of a public open meeting. A protest petition has been submitted to the city clerk's office regarding the action. The petition was reviewed or evaluated by the city attorney to be invalid, and I'll let him elaborate on that if you have any questions regarding that. So your option, as Mr. Kramer indicated, would be to place an ordinance on first consideration to approve the special use permit request, or to have no consensus to move it forward. Should the commission opt to place an ordinance on first consideration, staff would recommend 5 conditions be attached to it, and I'll just run through those quickly. The first would be that the owner of the property be registered with the city clerk as a rental property. The second is that the special use permit shall become null and void upon the sale of the property. The third is that the property shall be used for the boarding of one limited term boarder only, and shall not function as an event venue to include the hosting of parties attended by individuals not listed on the lease agreement. Number 4, any guest of the property must park in the driveway or garage of the home. And number 5, any police presence to the property shall be reported to the city commission, which may result in revocation of the special use permit. So if you have any questions, I can answer those for you now.
I have a couple, Ms. Hurley. We deal in SUPs probably half a dozen times a year. You know, one of the most common ones is if someone wants to open up a daycare center at, 111 Broadway. I'm just grabbing an address. And then we send out certified letters to the neighbors, 200-foot radius, saying this is being considered. If you have an objection or would like to weigh in on it, please do so.
Correct.
And we do that, and for the most part, we don't get many objections. Obviously, we've gotten objections here. I know that we cannot consider the HOA homeowners association covenant as something that we consider legally, but I think we can consider it as those neighbors speaking, because they've all signed that covenant, that they are in opposition. But in addition to that covenant, I think by the crowd here tonight, and some of them that I've spoken with, I think they're fairly much in lockstep completely against this. So our option 1 is, if we do nothing, if we don't have a consensus to move it forward, it's done, and the planning commission decision is sustained, and it will not be granted an SUP. Correct. Is that correct? Or the other one is we can have a consensus to move it forward for 2 weeks from tonight for a vote. But so those are the two options. Is that correct, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Dawson?
Correct.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any opinions?
I just have a question. This property's for sale, right?
Correct.
So, if we passed a special permit in this case, then anybody who has a property for sale around town would be asking for special use permits to do this. And I just wonder about that. But I agree with the mayor that, I think the HOA covenant should carry some weight here, especially.
Commissioner Dedekin?
I feel from talking to some of the residents, and one in particular out there that's really filled me in on what's happening, that the situation has been set. I don't know Dr. Habib, but from what's transgressed out there, by him going by and looking at it, not taking any action, when we had 40 or 45 kids out there with beer cans sitting all over the cars, I don't think a special use permit, what I'm saying is going to end up right back here again. I think they'd violate it, that's my own opinion, and it'd end up back here again. I'm in favor of just nipping it in the bud tonight.
Mr. Griswold?
Mr. Mayor, I agree with Mr. Dedeke, and the staff did a good job of laying it out, but I do agree with the Planning Commission head, Mr. Byrne, in terms of based on the incidents that were talked about and have been part of the record, and the police being called to one of the incidents,
that, that in fact it doesn't meet that criteria 2, which is the proposed special use at the specified location will contribute to and promote the economic development, welfare, or convenience of the public. Based on those 2 incidents, I don't think that criteria is not met. I will say, from the broader context of, because this kind of gets into this Airbnb thing in terms of residential homestay, we may in the future in a planning session want to look at it more broadly, because, I mean, if these incidents hadn't occurred, I mean, we might be in a situation where we would be saying possibly yes. And I understand that there's no kind of residential residences that are in this Airbnb status, but it's just something I think we may need to address in the future on a broader
I agree.
basis.
Commissioner Wilson? any
Yeah, I
comments?
just say, due to the number of the violations, prior to the special use permit, I wouldn't be in favor of it. So if we can resolve the issue, I would love to.
And I'll reiterate my position. As with any SUP, we send out certified letters to the neighborhood and ask them to weigh in. In my 8.5 years on the commission, I've never had a crowd like this in opposition to an SUP. So it tells me that I think the neighbors are in lockstep against it. I would invite someone to speak for this group and someone that is in favor of denying the SUP, as well as someone that's possibly in favor of granting the SUP, so they'll be heard. And maybe Mr. Waters, will you be the spokesman for your group?
I can be, thank you.
If that's okay with whoever's running your group. I think it's Mr. Waters and Mr. Harvest. I think you're paying him enough, you better let him talk.
Thank you. Again, my name is Doug Waters. My law office is across the street at 433 Shawnee. If I might, may I ask of the group here what members of our Oakwood Estates Association may be here who are in favor of your denying the petition? Could they raise their hands? I appreciate you giving us a chance to bring that to your attention. This is a unique situation, and I think in a lot of respects, as already mentioned, it's somewhat moot because of the fact that this property is for sale. If the commission was to grant this within a matter of days, even, we don't have any doubt that within a matter of weeks or so, we'd be back here presenting to you the fact that the property is sold. This is now to be taken off of the docket, so to speak, so that we're not going forward. But we've tried to present, and we've, I guess in the vernacular, we've papered it up of all the things that we've seen and the problems and issues that we've had out there, so that they could come to your attention. It has been a situation of multiple cars. It has, when you look at these things in the future, these issues are going to have to be looked at. Multiple cars, what regulation has to go with it? It would seem to me to be pages and pages of regulations, much more work for your staff as each one of these things goes along. It's going to be, it's been a nightmare in this neighborhood and for that part of our community. It's a cul-de-sac. Anything that goes in has to come back out. And what they've, in a very limited space situation. And the police reports indicate at least 6 and more cars that were involved in this, some of the instances that we've talked about, minors involved, alcohol, drug paraphernalia. You've got the police reports. I'm not going to go over that chapter and verse. But we do feel there's been an injury to the neighborhood in terms of its values. We think that realistically it makes no contribution to the safety or economic development of the community to have this property be given a special permit. In fact, this area has, by its own declaration of covenants and conditions, approved back in 2008, has subjected this property to the HOA, which again, council, and it's been addressed. We appreciate the limitations about what the commission can do or not do on that part of it. But it's been enforced for some time. In fact, those covenants and restrictions are part of the exceptions and conditions of the deed issued to the owner. I referred to this at the Planning Commission meeting. I think copies of that may have been submitted to your staff people as well. So it's not a surprise on the part of their part But it is a surprise on our part because it was totally without any notification. It just started happening. And this goes back, we think, to as far back as August. We do know of at least 2 instances even in the month of December, and I have dates if anybody on the commission wants those dates. It's been a continuing issue. We believe that it will continue until the commission says otherwise, and we're asking that, again, that there be no consensus on this. Now, maybe I could have some sense of the commission here. Every one of the people I have here, or come here voluntarily, could add much more to what I've had to say. But I think I've tried to summarize some of our concerns, especially in the papers and other documents that we've given you. And rather than use the commission's time, unless one or two of them absolutely want to get up and say something and so allowed by you, I think that's the gist of our report.
Okay.
If there's someone else in the audience that wants to support what Mr. Waters said, that is different information. I think he covered the whole gist of it. If you've got some additional information that he didn't cover, you're welcome to come up. Otherwise, I'm sure I could hear from 28 people saying basically the same thing. Are you comfortable with Mr. Waters covering the points that you wanted covered?
Yes.
Okay, next, anyone who would like to speak in favor of granting the SUP? Seeing none, it's now up to any other comments from anyone else?
Well, and you know, we've had bed and breakfast in the past. We had a B&B over there on Second Arch for many, many years. It never caused any problem at all, but this is a whole different animal.
But all those were properly licensed. And I
Yes,
don't know that
exactly.
we need to really look at, these will come up again. But we have the policy in place that they must require an SUP. There's nothing new here. Whoever ran this property, owned this property, has been operating as an Airbnb outside of the regulations because an SUP was required. They never granted one. And if another property somewhere down the road in Leavenworth wants to have an Airbnb, they have to apply for an SUP, and the neighbors will be notified. And if they come forward, and that's the purpose of the SUP and allowing neighbors to discuss the issue. I think that we've covered everything, unless Mr. Kramer, Mr. Dawson, do you have anything to add? So right now we have first consideration ordinance for the special use permit of 2115 Ridgeview Drive. Do we have a consensus to move this forward?
No.
No.
We don't have a consensus. The item's dead. No. The Planning Commission's recommendation is sustained, and no SUP will be granted. Thank you very much.
Mayor, may I speak just for a second?
Commissioner Dedeke, please.
This does and doesn't have anything to do with the resident that we just talked about. It, in my opinion, it does with the police department. From the information that I've been able to find out, personally, I'm very dissatisfied in the action taken by our police department. There's my understanding, 40 to 45 kids, all minors. They never did enter the house. There was drug paraphernalia there, also found in the car. The most severe thing that was done was a traffic citation for the marijuana that was found in the possession of the van of one of the minors. And then she was allowed to drive home. I don't understand. Of course, I'm from the old school. When I was a cop, we would have closed the house down and everybody would have went bye-bye. That didn't happen, and I would like an investigation to find out why there was no action taken on such a severe crime. That's all I...
Mr. Kramer, could you get a report and report back to the commission on that? Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Next item on the agenda is public hearing to vacate the street at Lynn Street and 2nd Street and Lynn, or Lynn and 2nd and Lynn. Take a couple minutes first.
Yeah.
Yeah, let everybody clear. See, Commissioner Griswold, they weren't all here just to see you. He just says, "There, a crowd like this every meeting?"
We're on a roll.
Not Airbnb, just
I saw that.
But they all got proper.
Yeah.
They're the old Ed Weddick's house, and
Yeah.
they've been used as the White House. It's been used as the White House. To get that portcullis.
Actually, get active.
That are in the area, right.
Okay, I think we're back now. We'll go with the item number 3, the public hearing to vacate property at 2nd and Lynn. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to open a public hearing to vacate Lynn and 2nd Street. Begin voting to Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Okay, public hearing's now open. I'll take staff and public comments, starting with staff, please.
Public Works Director Mike McDonald will handle this item.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, this is a request from Geiger Concrete to vacate a portion of Lynn Street adjacent to 2nd Street, down near their concrete ready-mix plant. And I want to start a little bit at the beginning before we get up to the actual vacation, because this is an extremely old part of town, and people have asked questions as to why things are the way they are, so I thought I would revisit some of the historical parts. Fackler's Addition became part of the city of Leavenworth in 1857. At the time that the city was founded, of course, there were no streets, there were no lots, there were no blocks. There would have been wagon trails and places where the steamboats would beach to load and unload their wares. And it came to be that the property was divided, and as it was further divided into lots of blocks, it was called subdividing. Fackler's Addition is basically from Pine Street south of, from Pine Street east of about 4th Street or so. The map that I have up here is what we have to work with on a lot of this. Is a copy of a paper map. I think these were transcribed probably in the early part of this century, teens or 20s, or the last century. And there's a lot of notes as things were changed and vacated and such. But to make things more confusing, they've put this together with north to the right on the map, but I've highlighted a couple of things. The street from left to right here is 2nd Street. The north and south, or the up and down street here, is Lynn Street. To get a sense as to where it is in the bottom of the map is the Missouri River. So we're going to go on to a little easier piece to take a look at. This is Fackler's Addition, the zoom in of the actual lots and blocks. As the property is subdivided, the process creates streets and alleys. Those streets and alleys are given to the government, being the city, or in fact the citizens. They're public property, and as the request to vacate the street is to give up property that belongs to the public, we take it very seriously in our office, because once it's given up, it rarely comes back. But this shows that Lynn Street, east and west in this case, and 2nd Street north and south, the little tan square is the request from Geiger to have that portion of public property for the city to give up its interest, and it will, in that case, revert to the adjoining property owners, of which Geiger Ready Mix owns the north lot and the south lot. So they would essentially end up with that through the normal process at the county. This is the picture that is in the agenda packet. That's a little more detailed. It has the buildings. This is 2nd Street on the left, Esplanade on the far right, and this is the dog boarding operation up at the south end of Esplanade Street. As I mentioned, this is public property. Staff looks at these closely to provide a recommendation to the City Commission. It takes a expectation on my office's part that there is a public purpose to be gained by giving up public property. And a couple of things play into this in this case. There is no Lynn Street physically constructed between 2nd Street and the alley to the east. There's no plans for the city to do that. There's no expectation of any commission that I have talked to in the last 30 years that there ought to be one. It is not a project that we expect to happen, but it is in fact public property. It is an expensive piece. It has some topography and some drainage and such that make it difficult to tie together a street to go from 2nd Street to Esplanade. Secondly, Geiger Ready Mix is a private industry. They have expressed their interest in continuing to expand their operations over time. They recently invested millions of dollars into a new plant. They have been working hard to make their business the premier concrete supplier in Northeast Kansas. So with the fact that the city has no plans or is not expected to have plans, and the continued prosperous business at Geiger Ready Mix, I believe it could be construed as good for the public in general. Staff does not object to this and recommends that the City Commission find this an acceptable property should they choose to vacate that. Billy Daniels with Geiger Ready Mix is here this evening if you have questions of him or of the property. As part of the vacation process, there is notifications mailed to adjoining property owners, of which Geiger Ready Mix is the adjoining property owner. However, we've had a couple of calls in our office, and I explained what was happening, and that was the end of that. I don't know if those people have their questions were answered or if they're here this evening. We also have obligations with the various public utility companies. Our agreements with them allow them to use public right-of-way, streets open or not open for their utility lines. And in this case, Westar has an overhead power line that runs through that property, and they have talked with Geiger that they will need, at the end of this, they will need an easement that lets them have their line as it is where it is. And Geiger has essentially said that that is just fine with them. And we have not had a response from AT&T yet. We don't believe they have any facilities in the area, and we find it unlikely that they will, but we're still trying to receive a response back from them. Our recommendation is that the City Commission would place this on first consideration. If there are other issues that arise before the second consideration, we'll address them at that time or as we go along.
Mr. McDonald, are you saying that we vacate it and just deed it to Geiger?
No, it would be just vacated, and that gets filed at the county. Then the county has a series of regulations that they go through where they say, the city has given up this property, what do we do with it? They will assign basically half of it to each of the adjoining properties. And they do all of that creation. Okay. All the commission would need to do is to vacate it.
Okay.
This, just for the general public, also puts that small partial back on tax rolls.
Right. It is zoned industrial, and will pay industrial zone taxes.
Right. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? Any questions? Any public? Any comments from the public on this? Yes, sir.
Billy Daniels, I work with Geiger Ready Mix, plant manager, here representing Geiger tonight. I just wanted to add on to what he said and just to let the commissioners know what our plans are. There's not really any immediate plans for this. This came about 50 years ago when Bill Geiger's dad told him this is something you need to clean up. So
finally getting around to it.
With the new plant, we had to get a full property survey with all our property points, and it really detailed, and that was done in 2014, and that brought up some of the loose ends we needed to clean up, and that's one of them is Lynn Street. We've been mowing and maintaining that property as far as I can remember. I mean, I started in 2000, and I'm sure it was, probably since 1949 when they got there, they were mowing that grass. The initial use would just be to stretch us out a little bit and give us a little bit more room. If you guys have been down there, we've been growing. It's getting tight to find parking spots for our trucks. So that would kind of extend it out, and if we could get a truck to turn around in that area, that would be a lot safer for us. Most of our accidents are while we're backing up. So if we don't have to back up once we get to that north end, that would really help. I mean, there's no plans on building a structure. There's a power line. We couldn't do it anyway. We wouldn't get the permit. But, so that's what we're looking at. I just want to make sure everybody was clear what was going on. So if there's any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Daniels? No? Any other information, Mr. McDonald?
That's all I have, sir.
Okay, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Motion and second to close, I'm sorry. Motion and second to close the public hearing. Begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 Passes 3-0. Next item, do we have a consensus to make this first consideration ordinance to vacate a portion of Lynn Street at Second?
Yes.
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 We have okay, we'll move that forward. Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Next item is bids and contracts and agreements. Consider bids for chemicals and water pollution control.
Our Public Works Director will continue with this.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, this is the annual series of purchases for chemicals to be used at the wastewater plant. I've provided a brief outline of what each chemical is used for. If you have specific questions of them, please don't ask me. Chuck Staples is here for that reason. He has been superintendent down there for some time and has a very good opinion of what these are used for and how to use them. We package together our chemicals each year to bid them out at the first of the year based on what we bid the previous year, how many we have on hand, and we seek that the City Commission would approve all of the low bids that meet the specifications, not to exceed $55,000 in total. These are from multiple suppliers. Many chemicals have a single bid, some have multiple bids.
Mr. McDonald, why did some of them have 75% increase and 25% increase, and other ones remain flat or even decline? Just commodities just move like that?
They're commodities, and I think as the economy is growing as it has, some of these are used in a lot of industrial processes. So we're fairly small potatoes, probably can't drive the market with our quantities, but we've seen prices go up and down over the years, and we feel these are adequate, or as we were expecting them in the ballpark. So the total purchase is about $55,000. We believe that will get us through the year.
Yeah, okay. Any questions for Mr. McDonald? If not, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend that, I move that we approve the City Commission, we approve the low bids that meet the specifications for these chemicals as shown, not to exceed $55,000.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the chemical buy as presented. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Thank you. Now we have some first consideration ordinances. Number 5, first consideration ordinance to vacate the easement in Track C, the branches, addition 2, number 2.
Public Works Director will continue.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, this is a similar request to the one we just discussed on Lynn Street, except this is not a street. This is a right that has been given by the property owner that developed the branches for public access to what is shown as Track C. This is the overall subdivision plat. At the bottom of the map is Eisenhower Road, and this is Branches Way, and you can see that there's the number of lots that are there. The portion is, as shown On this diagram, the left drawing is Birch Street off of Eisenhower, and track C is in the corner here. They have an aerial view of it and then a view from the street. This was originally intended for like a subdivision monument sign, and as the property was subdivided, they took that into account by drawing it as track C, making it the responsibility of the homeowners association to deal with it. And the use of track C was defined as landscaping, monuments, drainage, and public open space. There is no homeowners association at the Branches subdivision, and it has been, the current owner of the property has requested that the city vacate the drainage and public open space interest so that they can attach that property to the next property to the north and combine it as a single, make it into a single larger lot. The city has no need for drainage at this location, and there's no known need for public open space at this location, so we request that the city commission consider vacating those rights and placing this ordinance on the first consideration.
Any questions for Mr. McDonald? No. So they'd combine it with that other lot, which is, what, a little bit west of there?
West, looks like west.
North, there's a lot.
North, okay.
I believe it'd go with this lot 1.
So that is, north is up on that one?
North is up on this.
So
one, yes,
then
sir.
it'd become a building lot, they plan on?
It'd be combined. Lot 1 is a buildable lot, and they may be able to eventually build something on Lot C, but it would have to be as part of combined ownership of Lot 1 and Tract C. It's also worth noting the utility companies don't weigh in on this one because they have utility easements on the edges of the property that you can see here, but we're not vacating those. We're just vacating the drainage portion, which is a city function, and the public access portion.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. McDonald?
No.
Okay, do we have a consensus to vacate this easement, move it forward to a vote in a couple of weeks?
Yes.
Yes.
Evan, I'll move it forward. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Next item is number 7, first consideration ordinance to remove 225 Delaware from the downtown redevelopment district.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. In 2011, the city created the Downtown Town Square Redevelopment District, which is a tax increment financing district, otherwise known as a TIF district, to facilitate the development of a downtown hotel, which just opened last week. When the area was formed, the TIF area extended beyond the hotel property, and those properties are not related to the hotel, but they consented and were given notice when they were placed in the TIF district. A developer out of Junction City has acquired the Landing 4 Theater and plans to rehab and renovate the property with new reclining chairs, upgraded concessions, as well as expanding it to be a 5-screen theater. As you know, Jeremy Greenemeyer has removed several of his properties in the recent past adjacent to this property to place them back in the neighborhood revitalization area, the NRA tax rebate program. This would enable the business to receive some tax relief on the improvements that they're making to the building. So the developer...
That's just the incremental.
Right, the
incremental. The base
incremental.
taxes remain the same.
Right.
They don't get a reduction on that.
Right.
But they add something to it.
So the developer, Bramlage Properties, has entered into a funding agreement with Lathrop Engaged, which is our legal counsel that represents us on economic development projects. And they have reviewed and wrote all of the legal documents for this CLC and attached feasibility study and the ordinance to remove this property from the TIF district and placing it back in the NRA. So tonight we're just looking for consensus to move this forward to a second consideration.
Any questions for Mr. Tedder? Any comments from anyone? All right. Do we have a consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
We have consensus. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you. Consent agenda, I will take that tonight, starting the next meeting. Mr. Griswold, this will be his responsibility, but I'll take it for tonight. I was able to review it. Present to the commission the claims for December 9, 2017 through January 5th, 2018 in the amount of $3,617,753.87. Net amount for payroll number 26 effective December 22nd, 2017 in the amount of $330,622.96, which includes police and fire pension of $11,401.34, and net amount of payroll 1 effective January 5th, 2018 in the amount of $312,516.25.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Now we have a couple executive sessions, but before that, I'll take comments from commissioners if there's any comments any commissioners may have. Start with Commissioner Griswold.
No comments.
Nope, I'm good.
Commissioner Dedeky.
I just, again, like to welcome our 2 new commissioners and wish them all the success in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No comments.
Okay, and I'll just reiterate, thank you for voting me in as mayor again.
I
Commissioner
will say
Bowder.
Thank you for all the support I got this year as mayor, and serving the community has been the honor of my lifetime, and our city manager has kept me on top of everything and on the up and up, and so I really appreciate his work as well, and all of the staff, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have need for 2 executive sessions. First one is consultation with an attorney.
Do you want me to read those?
How much time do we need, Mr. Dawson?
I think we decided maybe 20 minutes.
20 minutes on the first one, and
And we'll have to come back into session. and
for the
go
second
back
one.
out for the second
Yeah.
one.
And once you
Read that?
once you add 5 minutes, take a break, make it like 8:25 or something.
Okay. I move that we go into consultation, we go into executive session for the purpose of consultation with an attorney for the public body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, exception per KSA 75-4319, subsection B2, the Eisenhower Road Improvement Project.
And return to this
Including
room
the-
at-
Oh, I'm sorry, and return to this room at 8:25.
And the executive session include the city attorney and the city manager.
And the executive session will include the city manager and the city attorney.
Second.
Motion and a second, go into executive session, return at 8:25 by that clock. Begin voting, Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 Off we go. We can take a couple minutes if you want.
Yeah.
back in session. We'll wait for Commissioner Bowder to come back in. Mr. Kramer, how much time do you think we need on item number 9?
What did we discuss? I think we could,
About 10 minutes.
probably 15 to be safe.
Okay. Do you expect any action after this?
I do not.
Okay. We can, someone makes the motion that we go until, call it 8:22, that'll give us 2 minutes and Nancy can go in. She doesn't have to be here for the motion. If someone wants to make this motion. Go ahead.
42.
8:42, that's, yeah, Matt.
I move to recess into executive session pursuant to the consultation with an attorney for the public body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, exception per KSA 75-44319, Bravo 2, to discuss the operations of the Leavenworth County Port Authority. The open meeting to resume in the City Commission chambers at 8:42. By the clock in the City Commission chambers. City Manager Paul Kramer and City Attorney Tom Dawson are requested to be present during the executive session.
Have a second?
Second.
Begin voting. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
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 We're in executive session.
I'm gonna catch him on the way, so I go, what's a good time to call you?
Yeah.
Also turn around and not see what's-
We have 2 minutes.
Say what first night.
Take my Kansas magazine, that's all I need.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Where's he at? Oh, he's in Topeka?
Yeah, that's where he's from originally. His dad owned, he's a shoe cobbler. In other words.
Yeah, I remember when he lived in a little trailer across 4th Street.
Yeah.
About what Casey's is now, I think.
Yeah, and then he moved up
How you
at
doing,
Sixth and
Mike?
Seneca.
Pretty good, pretty good.
In that
Yeah.
red thing,
Yeah.
little apartment there.
Yeah. Yeah, Tillison's lived up there too for a while.
Okay, we're back in session. No other business. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're adjourned. Good night.